All right, everybody, welcome back. Episode 8, How to Make a Few $1,000. I'm your co-host, Frederick Ott, joined by my co-host, Sammy Mattingly, the CPA's CPA. What's going on, Sammy?
Nothing much, man. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well as always. I'm doing well as well. And we're joined by our very special guest, Chris Elder, guest and friend of the pod, Chris Elder. Chris, what's going on, man?
So far, so good. It's a stupendous honor for which I may not be
Ah.
worthy.
You're too nice. You're too nice. You're too nice. Uh, for those of you who don't know, Sammy and I go way back with Chris. Went to Trinity High School together. Go Rocks. Chris, you went to school at Vandy in Nashville, and then I know that you kind of got into construction, and I want to get to the Elder construction piece, but I think there was a little bit of time from Vandy to that. Maybe if you just want to kind of catch us up to current on your early career and kind of how you got to where you are.
Yeah, definitely did not imagine doing what I'm doing now. By divine providence, I'm here. So, I studied economics at school, and I was highly interested in the real estate world, namely due to, my father being somewhat in the business as I was growing up. And so really thought I would be kind of in that real estate finance trajectory. I worked for a developer in Atlanta for a summer internship, which kind of turned into doing some part-time work for him during the school year. And of course, uh, for those who don't know, real estate development has a lot to do with construction, which I, of course, grew up around with my father having started this business many, many, many years ago. And so, over the years, he, like any good father, wants to pass on to his son that which he has learned and that which he has picked up through trials and tribulations. And so, growing up, he would, of course, share these different stories. Actually, one time, Sam and I were on the job site cleaning up trash one summer. Um, and so, getting back to the overall narrative there, worked with that developer there for a little bit. That helped me sort of understand the how the numbers flow in a real estate deal. Construction being simply one line item in said deal. So gave me a good perspective there. After essentially stopping to work helper, um, I made somewhat of a connection through one of my dad's former contacts, who's an architect. Um, I basically secured some jobs for him, and we sort of partnered up on some architectural work, um, where the arrangement was basically I would find the job and get the contact. It was kind of like a business development sort of a deal where I bring the deal and he does the drawings. And so did that on a couple of projects and made a decent amount of money, during college. At the same time, I was also sort of piddling around with the idea of being a land developer myself, and even in college had with more resources than I had since I was you know very much broke, um, and really just had the time and energy to inject into a deal with the limited resources I had, mainly the context I was put around. Was able to purchase a property, rezoned that, and sold it. Actually, the closing date was the same day I graduated from college, so I had to jet out there a little bit early. Uh, I'll bring all that up though, not to of course, boast in any way, but just to um, outline the path that was very much not straightforward. I continued after college to sort of work with my partner, the architect, and finding more deals and doing more work with him. You know, My father, of course, has been an entrepreneur since he was 7 or 8, having had to live on a farm and sort of run things there. And my mother kind of shares the same entrepreneurial uh, mindset, whatever that may mean. Perhaps we can dive into it a little bit later. But just on the surface, I'll use that buzzword. And so I knew I kind of was attracted to that outlook on business and that outlook on one's career, working for oneself. Again, we can dive into that in a bit with more depth, but uh, for the most part, I kind of try to stay on that path and did so really for that time forward. Um, how Elder Construction comes into play really happened at the start of the year following my graduation at Vanderbilt, where ultimately I, of course, being close with my father, heard, how things were going. And at one point, it kind of occurred to me with my work with the architect that I was primarily expending a lot of my resources and time and talents with this architect who I, of course, have a friendship with and good love for. But at the end of the day, I was using my time and energy to ultimately uh, make some money for myself. But as far as the overall mission, uh, just make him more money, which of course, any business is in the business of making money. But um, seeing how my father's operation was going, I felt that in response to the fourth commandment, I ought to help out the best I can and honor my parents. And so that's when I sort of uh, pivoted a little bit and began to assist him with what he was doing and uh, sort of optimize what the operations and the things that he already had spent decades and decades building. And so really stumbled upon it in a naivete that did not uh, allow me to kind of foresee what was to come. And so over the past couple of years, it's been quite the whirlwind doing what I'm doing now, which is um, Elder Construction. So a long-winded answer to say that I've been all over the place.
Definitely a long-winded answer, but it's nice to hear, especially as one of your good friends, to hear it in kind of a chunk like that, because living in the moment, you're like, oh, Chris is off doing this, he's off doing this, but there is a common theme of, yeah, you're doing different things, but really you're out here kind of learning and creating deals, creating money like out of thin air using your resources. And I would say it's a pretty non-traditional route compared to our friends and our peers in our age group, just with, I think, stereotypical, you get an internship that's at a bigger company, you kind of go to the next internship, whereas you're doing it more on an ad hoc nature. What I want to know is, okay, we get to the point where you're starting to work for your dad. You're still a young guy, but at that time, what, 4 years ago, you're 22, 23 years old. How was that transition into construction, being, you're the youngest guy on majority of projects. You have some adjacent experience in different fields, but you're certainly no expert in construction at that point. Talk about how you kind of dealt with those challenges.
Yeah, great question. I'll try not to be as long-winded this time. um,
Long-winded was a poor choice of words on my end.
um, yeah, great question. Very relevant. At the time, I, didn't really understand that was the situation. But of course, over time, you look back and see why things happened the way that they did. Uh, ultimately, one's ability to provide value is somewhat constrained by uh, one's perspective on the whole. On the whole, so when I started, my perspective in construction, how construction business operates well, how it uh, increases revenue, how it increases the bottom line, how projects are actually built, how people are actually managed, how personalities are dealt with. Uh, all these things I, of course, did not know. And so my ability to add value in bettering Elder Construction's strategies and operations and doing those things was, of course, constrained because I simply did not know what was going on. So ultimately, what I started out with doing was piggybacking off of what I had already done before, which was the finding of deals or finding of new clients, things of that nature. So ultimately, I started um, really just trying to find new leads, kind of the same thing I'd been doing for the architecture business, and same thing for the real estate world. It all starts at sales. All starts at
Mhm.
sales. So, um, I really began doing that over time. You know, you learn the jargon and the lingo that one needs to have in order to persuade the buyer that you can actually provide those services that they are in need of. And so slowly over time, I kind of began to understand just the different nature of the business by, first of all, understanding what these people are looking for in using a construction company, what the pain points are, to use another buzzword sales point. But it ultimately kind of came out of necessity that I had to step in and do other roles and uh, learn other skills. So at that point, we were, starting to get more projects, and um, we basically needed somebody to be the project manager. We needed somebody to sort of help guide the estimating process. We needed somebody to um optimize the financial management of things. And so, make a long story short, it was a baptism by fire, being thrown into a task when you're given one direction when you really should have needed three. Sadly, that meant a lot of mistakes were made that were could have been avoided had there been different circumstances or more knowledge and less naivete on my part. But ultimately, with through all of those difficult moments, you have to, by design, learn what needs to be done in order to not make them again. And so, to answer your question succinctly, um, yes, I did know nothing, um, but out of necessity, with the nature of how our business was growing and the different roles that needed to be filled, uh, I learned by trial and error.
So, you talk a lot about you kinda got into the industry, got into your father's business, I guess maybe now that was around a couple years ago, and, it's baptism by fire, you're doing all these new things, but then, when I look at you now, it's impossible to know everything, but you've got a confidence about yourself in the business where, it seems like you've kinda learned and you kinda know better, in what direction you're going and how these operations work. Between, when you just got in to working with your father in that business and now, was there sorta like a point where you said, "Oh, hey, like, this was a success story, like, now I know I can do this," and then that sort of impacted your confidence moving forward and being like, "Yeah, I'm new to this industry, but now that I accomplished X, I know that I can do this for sure."
No, but what I would say is that, just like probably for you all, um, the more repetitions you do, the more the confidence builds. So like, to apply it to my circumstances, first project that we did, I was very very uh very green, as they say. The more project one does, the less green one feels and appears to others. So it's really kind of a, over time, and the more reps that you put in, and also most importantly, the more you're surrounded by those who do know more than you and that can teach you and are willing to teach you, the more that confidence naturally builds. And I would say it's never just one point, but over time, it eventually grows without you even realizing it.
Yeah, I like that answer a lot. I think Fred and I can both feel that now being, 10 months into this and the first month or so, if something went wrong, it was like the world was falling out. Then you kind of realize there's going to be something that goes wrong every day. But we are so much more equipped to handle that 10 months in, and I'm sure a year and 10 months in, we're gonna look back at ourselves now and go, "Oh man, like had half the tools then that I do now." So it it's cool what time can do and just sticking with it can do. I do want to ask, like moving forward now, you have your feet under you a little bit. Actually, I would say a lot of it from outside looking in. What
Mhm.
does success look like for Elder Construction moving forward?
Yeah, great question. Ultimately, for me and what my vision is um, has a couple of uh, aspects to it. The one is uh, of course, business side, where we continue to uh, provide the services and build the buildings that we aim to build. And the more we do that, and we are successful, um, I would say, to answer that part of your question, is ultimately just to build more stuff. That's a metric of success. But the other aspect of it is more so on the personal side for everybody that works here, which is ultimately a growth and virtue through through these uh, uh, through these adventures that we are placed in the middle of and willingly go on. And so, the main objective here is not only to um, provide these construction services to our clients and do so uh, with serious and uh, deliberate honesty and integrity and high quality of craftsmanship and safety. Uh, More importantly, it's a mechanism by which we all, myself included at the company, can grow personally in virtue and continue to do that which pleases our Lord. And so ultimately, I kind of view it in that uh, stereotypical way, which is it's not the destination, but the journey. um, the main goal is to, for as long as we are permitted to do so, to uh, offer our services to the marketplace in a way in which our values as a company shine forth, not for prideful or ambitious reasons, but for the betterment of our souls and the souls of those whom we serve. So that's my answer.
I mean, it's a cliche, but like it's so true that it's not the destination, it's the journey. And Sammy and I end up arriving at that point with a lot of the people that we have on the show. You know, if we ask them what success looks like, it's always a different version of sort of the same answer where they just want to they want to wake up and be happy and enjoy their day and enjoy themselves and make the people they care about happy. And um I think that's such a cool piece of continuity that we see, with everybody that comes on the show. So, we've talked about your career, we've talked about other construction, where it's at now, where it's going. I think we might have some people listening to the show. Maybe they want to get into construction. Maybe they just even want to start a business. They don't know where to start. So what's your advice for these people on how to make a few $1,000s?
In regards to construction in particular, or just in general?
No, I would keep it broad, and we like to say how to make a few $1,000s. It's different than earning a few $1,000s because you know Chris, I'm sure you could go get a great job anywhere and you could earn whatever, we can earn money, but when you make a few $1,000s, it's really, you know, you're making that money. from nothing. So whether it's in construction or another endeavor, if you had just a piece of advice.
Yeah, great distinction there between earning and making. When one earns money, somebody's paying you to accomplish what their goal is and what their vision is, and provide whatever they have to offer to the marketplace, which is very noble and very respectable, and a lot of ways a lot easier than having to make it. um, if one desires to make a few $1,000s, I would seriously urge them to consider, why that is, because ultimately that desire does come from a certain place, I think, of wanting to provide something to the world that has not yet been provided. Um, with that in mind, you have to sort of take a look at what you actually have to offer, what you actually have to give. If you have a lot of experience in, um, finance or software uh, development or technology, perhaps what you want to offer is something related into those fields, and also probably what interests you as well. If you want to make a few $1,000s, you need to be able to provide something to someone that's willing to buy it that you are not only interested in, but that you have some level of proficiency at as well. Just looking at, Matt and Leonard, I would say you guys did the exact same thing, taking that which you were somewhat familiar and accustomed to, namely your finance and accounting backgrounds, having an interest in that, a um, competency in that as well, and wanting to now offer that to the world with your own sort of uh, twist on it, as it were. So if one wants to make a few $1,000s, I would suggest that that person analyze what uh, analyze what he is good at, what he's interested in, um, because without that, you will inevitably get burnt out. You will not have a mission that you are totally convinced is worth fighting for, and you will most inevitably not put the requisite brain power and energy into it. So, uh, answer your question shortly: choose something that you like, find a way that you can monetize it, and then spend your time doing so. Um, Definitely in a well balanced way. I wouldn't, you know, uh, do that at the cost of the other aspects of your life, which will inevitably bite you in the butt and make your end terrible and destructive. Mhm. That's how I'd answer that question.
I love the answer, especially the last part too, because there is something noble in working hard, but there does become a point in time where are you just working hard, or are you just always working? Like, because they might overlap, but they can be very, very different as well. So maintaining that balance is, I think, huge. Um, with with also knowing that you are going to have to sacrifice things as well.
So all about virtue, all about holiness, and um, it's okay to have fun too.
I
Fun's
like
cool.
how I like how when you started your answer on like the advice piece, when you were thinking about it, and then you're like, you first need to just think about why, like why you want to make a few $1,000s instead of earn. Like our most recent guest, we actually just recorded one, like I was telling you before, like a couple hours ago, and he said the same thing. Like when it was your first piece of advice, he's like, you have to figure out the reason, like that you're wanting to do something, because otherwise it's never going to go anywhere. Um, so yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it, Chris. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I know your time's very valuable and it's valuable to us, and we're just super pumped to finally have you on the podcast.
it's no more valuable than yours. Like I said, it's a stupendous honor.
Love
I
it. I
appreciate
love it. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Chris. Thanks to everybody for listening to episode 8. I think it's episode 8 is what I said, of how to make a few $1,000s on the road to 10 episodes. Be 100 soon. Chris, we'll definitely have you back on. From myself, Frederick Ott, co-host. Thanks everybody for listening. Sammy, Chris, see you guys later.
Bye, fellas.
it.